Part 128. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 1280. Latest website. Mayor Zhang never mentioned the introduction of hurricane capital at the dinner table. Even if Lu Feng said that we could discuss it further, the other party would just smile and say nothing and change the topic elsewhere. The gap between the conditions of the two sides is so huge that it is no longer a matter of negotiation, and there is no need for any negotiation. The most talked about thing at the dinner table was local history. Lu Feng was not very interested in these things. During the dinner, Du Guoying went out to answer a phone call. When he came back, he whispered, "Mr. Lu, go out and talk." "Sorry, excuse me." Lu Feng stood up and left the box, walked to the stairs and asked, "What's wrong?" "The director of the investment promotion office in Shenzhen called just now. He heard that we had gone to Ningbo, and he seemed very anxious," Du Guoying said. "How did you respond?" "I said we were going to have further negotiations here, and it was basically half done." "The other party asked if they fully accepted us?" "I said I had to give in a little, and they said they could discuss it again," Du Guoying said cleverly. "If you say so, this trip is not in vain," Lu Feng said with a smile. "Go back to eat and communicate with them on the phone in the afternoon. We will stay here for a few more days." The two of them returned to the dinner table with expressionless faces, and Lu Feng didn't mention anything more about settling in Ningbo. After dinner, he returned to the hotel. Before making the call, Lu Feng held a small meeting. The current conditions proposed were indeed unacceptable, so some conditions should be added, such as ensuring how many jobs will be created, cooperation with local suppliers, and technology transfer. How much tax will be reached after 5 years, etc. These conditions are essentially a bet, but Lu Feng is very confident about winning this bet. You must know that 5 years later it will be 2003, and the domestic mobile phone market at that time was already very huge. The small meeting lasted for 2 or 3 hours, and a preliminary plan was finalized. At around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Lu Feng called back to the Shenzhen Investment Promotion Office. "Hello? Director Li? I'm Lu Feng from Hurricane Capital." Lu Feng made the call from the hotel phone, turned on the speakerphone, and said, "I'm in Ningbo now. I just heard Mr. Du say you give me a call." "Oops, I'm busy here, I just came back from dinner and drank a little too much, sorry." "Have you been drinking until now?" the other end of the phone asked a little warily. "I can't help it, I'm too enthusiastic. You also know that Bird Mobile is here. They pay special attention to the communications industry. It will probably take a few days to conduct an inspection." "What do you want?" Lu Feng asked. "Mr. Lu, Hurricane is a high-quality enterprise, and we attach great importance to it. This thing was negotiated. I am also from the north. What is there to talk about? We can't say that if we don't agree, we will go elsewhere. Anyway, Shenzhen, are you kind to you?" The other end of the phone played the emotional card for a while, and then inquired, "Did they agree to all your conditions?" "That's not true. We also need to make some guarantees." "Actually, you are right. Shenzhen is kind to me. It is because of kindness that I feel that when talking to Shenzhen, I shouldn't say so much. You should, you know what I mean, do you understand that feeling?" Lu Feng asked towards the phone. "I understand. I understand. It just feels like one family and two families are talking." The other end of the phone sighed, "Mr. Lu, this is a new team. You should also understand that we really want you to land here. Everything is easy to communicate with. The people above me have changed. Are these people still there? If something happens in the future, take care of it. Isn't that just a matter of words? We can definitely do it under the same conditions, but if you insist on not paying a penny, let the local government build an industrial park come out. This is not realistic and it can't be done anywhere. I know it too, alas. After drinking some wine, I became emotional, brother. Lu Feng sniffed, paused, and said, I'll do more inspections here, and you can do more work. We'll go back and see, let's talk, because the market doesn't give us time now. If we build a factory now, production will have to be in July or August at the earliest, plus launch and sales, it will be next year. Yes, yes, the market waits for no one. It's best to decide as soon as possible. When will you come back? Give me a call in advance, Director Li said. No problem, I guess we'll be here for another 3 or 4 days. After the two parties exchanged polite greetings, Lu Feng hung up the phone. The conversation lasted nearly an hour. Lu Feng symbolically mentioned some of the concessions he had made. He said implicitly that as long as he could make more if you give in, the probability of success will be greater. Then just rest here for a few days. According to the standard, the probability of them agreeing is relatively high. Lu Feng picked up the conditions after the meeting on the table, patted the paper and said, take a rest and go out to play. For high-end technology companies, all major cities are vying for it, but compared to other cities, Shenzhen cares more. They have specific development goals. If they benchmark this place against Silicon Valley in the United States, they will definitely compete for high-tech companies like Hurricanes. And there are few cities in the country that can compete with Shenzhen. Zhang Xiaoyan put down the work at hand and went shopping with Zhang Fengxia in the morning. Zhang Fengxia was quite fashionable in dressing up, and both of them had smiles on their faces after spending money. In the afternoon, the two of them also bought a set of jewelry each. The jade accessories alone cost $500,000, not to mention other things. According to Zhang Fengxia, don't think so much. The happiness you can buy with money is the best in this world. The cheapest happiness. Zhang Xiaoyan didn't quite agree with this sentence at first, but then she thought about it. She spent so much money on her factory and got so angry every day. It was not as happy as spending money. In the evening, the two sang karaoke, had a big meal, and finally had a beauty treatment and massage before going home. This money has to be spent before it is called money. Otherwise, why would you find such a rich man? Zhang Fengxia sat on the sofa and said, is it possible that someday a vixen will come and steal our money? When you find someone to take advantage of, don't you feel much happier? Zhang Fengxia tried her best to comfort her and make her heart less naughty. If you say that, it seems that you are secretly happy to take advantage of me. What's more, I am more comfortable than those who are kept. He only comes back a few times throughout the year. Zhang Xiaoyan laughed at herself. If you have money to spend, you won't suffer. Ha 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 ha. Zhang Fengxia covered her mouth and laughed, teasing, I'm afraid you are now wishing for someone to come back and make you suffer. I'm not surprised. We've been together for so many years, what's new? Zhang Xiaoyan couldn't help lowering her head and being happy as she spoke. 2 days passed by, and the news of Hurricane Semiconductor and AMD's cooperation was already known to the industry. In addition, Lu Feng asked Zhu Lidong to come back. Sharp felt that something was not right, and Hurricane seemed not to care much about whether to cooperate with itself. But now the contract has not been cancelled, and many countries have once again increased tariffs on high-tech chip products, which has further reduced their global competitiveness. The entire semiconductor industry in Fuzhou understands that the United States wants to suppress them. This suppression lasted from the 1980s to the early 2000s. Their global market share fell below 20%, and Silicon Valley suddenly became a global high-tech gathering place. Land. No one is willing to wait to die, and it is even less likely that the entire Fuzhou elite is a fool, mindlessly pursuing beauty. Europe follows the United States, and there are companies like TSMC and Samsung in the Asian market. The remaining consumer market is very small. Now even China, which has a small consumer market, cannot cooperate. This blow is too big for them. Meetings are being held one after another, and they are constantly protesting. Sharp feels that it cannot wait any longer and needs to get things done first. Let's talk later. As for what kind of trouble the group headed by Watanabe will make in the future, let's talk about it when the time comes. One step away is a step down. Lu Feng received a call from Zhu Lidong the next day with good news. Sharp has resumed cooperation with us, and the patents will continue to be cross-used. They probably saw that the limelight was not right, and they are also taking on the pressure this time, Zhu Lidong said excitedly on the phone. Who would have thought of opening Sharp's door? The key is actually on Wall Street. Lu Feng was not too surprised by this news. Many companies in Fuzhou were severely suppressed internationally, not only by the suppression of semiconductor products, but also by the excavation of talents. How many people did hurricane capital poach from Fuzhou in a year? People in the United States dig team by team. I thought I could suppress it for a long time, but I didn't expect it to stand up. But don't think too much about further cooperation. Obtaining the technology patent for the LCD screen is already pretty good. Lu Feng is quite familiar with the current Fuzhou. Fuzhou is now the second largest economy in the world. Automobiles, semiconductors, communications, materials, and optics are all world-class. The United States and Europe suppress it extremely hard. From the late 1980s to the present, the entire Fuzhou economy has fallen into a stagflation stage. If nothing else, the field of lithography machines was surpassed by ASML in this decade. They are also seeking breakthroughs, otherwise there would not be so much technology flowing into the country, and there would be no need to say thank you. In essence, it is industrial spillover, exporting some low-end technologies to the outside world, seeking to create a huge market, allowing them to outside the United States and Europe. They have to find another export destination that can drive their domestic economic growth. Now that we have resumed cooperation, we don't need to worry about the previous agreement. We only need to keep a small team to communicate regularly, and withdraw everything else. Lu Feng asked about the domestic semiconductor market again, and told Zhu Lidong, your task now is to cultivate a market for me as soon as possible. We are now in Ningbo. I met Mr. Su a few days ago. Their sales volume is so huge, all using communication chips imported from Europe. Let's find a way to negotiate this deal. Zhu Lidong's scalp was numb when he heard on the other end of the phone. What level of cooperative relationship did they have? This corner was really untouchable. Mr. Lu, I guarantee you that we will definitely be able to connect with at least 10 mobile phone manufacturers this year, Zhu Lidong promised. Latest website. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 1281. Latest website. Zhu Lidong can guarantee that it can be done. He said that he would connect with 10 manufacturers, but he did not specify the scale. With the strength of hurricane, wouldn't it be easy to connect with 10 small manufacturers? Lu Feng didn't say much about his rhetoric and asked him to increase the market share of Hurricane Semiconductors products in the wholesale market by at least 5 points before the end of the year. For a time, the Chinese market seemed to be the key to competition between Fuzhou, the United States, and Europe. Within 2 days, Lu Feng saw some foreign financial newspapers predicting the domestic consumer electronics market. However, their predictions are relatively conservative. They predict that China will become a huge market with annual sales exceeding 100 million units in 10 years. Lu Feng is quite clear about the mobile phone market sales in 10 years. This year, the national mobile phone sales exceeded 600 million units. A few days later, Lu Feng and his party got up and returned to Shenzhen. As soon as they landed, they were taken to the investment promotion office. Director Li took Lu Feng to have a meal and drink, because he had already contacted Mayor Zhang once before, and now he mainly talked with Director Li. There is no problem in talking, and the two parties will meet again. After working on it for several days, the plan was finally finalized. 470 acres of land were allocated to build the Hurricane Industrial Park. The city invested the site as an intermediary to advance funds in the early stage, mainly for construction costs, factory design, and architectural models. In fact, Hurricane Capital only has the responsibility of guidance and has the right to supervise the construction. Lu Feng also knew that the so-called supervisory power was nonsense. When the time came, the people on the construction site would not look down on him. Hurricane Capital contributed 30% of the cost of the first phase of the project, and the remaining funds did not need to be contributed. After the completion of the first phase of the project, Lu Feng had to complete the recruitment within 6 months and create 5,000 direct jobs. 150 acres of land in the Hurricane Industrial Park is used for supporting enterprises related to GIDI communications. These supporting enterprises give priority to local enterprises, and GIDI will cultivate 5 medium-sized supporting enterprises within 3 years and transfer low and medium-end technologies. All local taxes will be exempted for 5 years. During these 5 years, GIDI Communications, as a high-tech enterprise, will receive state subsidies, and the local government will also provide the highest local subsidies. After 5 years, GIDI Communications will contribute no less than 200 million yuan to local tax revenue every year. The contract period is 5 years. After 10 years, if the cooperation obligations of both parties are fulfilled, the 300 acres of land and buildings in the industrial park will be free of charge. Transferred to GIDI Communications and become an asset of GIDI Communications. In addition to the industrial park, the two parties also agreed on a talent transfer plan and signed a cooperation agreement with Shenzhen University, which includes a high-level cooperation plan between all the R/U0026D centers of Hurricane Capital and Shenzhen. On the 5th day after the contract was signed, Lu Feng was awarded an honorary doctorate by Shenzhen University, and was awarded the title of Pioneer of Scientific and Technological Innovation by the local government. Hurricane Capital was also awarded the honor of Quality Technology Enterprise. In the next 10 years, GIDI Communications is destined to be bound to Shenzhen. Lu Feng is quite satisfied with this result. Because of the tight time, the planning drawings came out a week after the two parties signed the contract, and then construction began in full swing. The industrial park is located in Shenzhen High-Tech Industrial Zone. Days passed by, and it was the end of February in a blink of an eye. Lu Feng had been staying in the hotel during this period. Du Guoying also quietly asked in private if he had a quarrel with his wife. How could anyone stay in a hotel every day in front of his home? You know what the heck, this is called controlling the time of meeting. A small break is better than a newlywed. If we are together every day, isn't that justified? Lu Feng looked at him and said angrily, I will go back today. Du Guoying didn't dare to speak, but in his heart he felt that Lu Feng was being tough. At noon, Lu Feng called Zhang Fengxia and asked about the current situation at home. Are you done? Come back when you're done. I just have to attend a meeting the day after tomorrow, Zhang Fengxia said calmly on the other end of the phone. Come back, don't worry, no one will hit you. What are you talking about? It seems like no one can hit me, so I'll go back now. After hanging up the phone, Lu Feng put his suitcase in the car and headed straight to the villa. Today's weekend, Lu Feng just returned home and saw a dumbfounded scene. Duo pushed Meow Meow in circles at the door, shouting, Hold on tight, the plane is exerting force, take off immediately. Dad is back. Duo was so excited that he let go of his hand, and Meow Meow went on a long voyage. Lu Feng stopped the car and rushed to pull the child's walker back, only to find that the child had vomited milk. Are you going to play like this? You'll play her to death in a moment, Lu Feng said to Duo. Zhang Xiaoyan walked out and saw Lu Feng scolding Duo, looking a little unhappy. Zhang Fengxia hurriedly walked out and said, Let the children play. Besides, children are made of iron. What can happen? She is still young and can easily be spoiled by you, do you understand? Duo stared at Meow Meow and asked, are you happy? He, the little guy opened his mouth, revealing a row of baby teeth, and nodded, happy. Don't delay the two children's play. Let's go home, Zhang Fengxia said. Lu Feng put the child on the walker and walked home. Zhang Xiaoyan told Duo not to play around and to do homework when it was time. Are you done? Zhang Xiaoyan pushed Meow Meow back, picked her up, put her on her lap, wiped her saliva, and said, we have been reading the newspaper. You are also a doctor now. They are all false names, icing on the cake. If I go back to the United States to open a company and donate some money to my alma mater, as long as I have enough money, I can directly put you in the Hall of Fame. Zhang Fengxia picked an orange and asked, the conditions this time are, didn't you give in more? All kinds of honors. After signing a 10-year contract, there is still a lot of good news. Lu Feng briefly explained what happened to Sharp. It's a good start. The current mobile phone market is very good, and Hurricane can produce communication chips, which has driven a lot of overall profits for upstream and downstream companies. During this period, the factory in Huasha was supervised by the local government for arrears of wages to employees. Several times, this matter has to be resolved as soon as possible. Zhang Fengxia ate an orange and said, I don't think this matter is Sister Xiao Yan's problem. The main problem is that we have not negotiated good terms with the local government. The cost of building the factory is too high. Those people also think that she is a woman who is easy to bully. It is impossible for one person to manage such a large factory. Facing the municipal negotiations, now it is a shortfall of more than 200 million is not a big sum of money for our family. Zhang Xiaoyan sat there without saying anything, just teasing the child. Zhang Fengxia took our family seriously and seemed to have integrated into this family. Lu Feng knew Zhang Xiaoyan. She was the kind of person who would admit defeat in her heart but not in her mouth. Do you still need the factory over there? Lu Feng asked. Yes. We have reached an agreement with Libby regarding the OEM. We also need a few assembly lines. We cannot throw away the brand we have finally built just because we are losing money, Zhang Xiaoyan said. Zhang Fengxia and Zhang Xiaoyan had discussed this matter before. Zhang Xiaoyan didn't want to have to worry about anything, but Zhang Fengxia persuaded her to keep the business and take care of it slowly. Once she managed it by herself, she would have the business and money in her hands, and she would be more independent. Secondly, if you stay at home with your children every day, you will become depressed in a few years. Don't talk about money. When you go out to meet people and treat people every day, your mental outlook will be different. People will also appear energetic and better looking. Then inject another 250 million to resolve this matter, Lu Feng said. Stop injecting capital. It's like an outsider's company. You give her more than 200 million and let Sister Xiao Yan handle it on her own. I think the previous shareholding of more than 80% was too much. Sister Xiao Yan gave it to her. If you work part-time, give me some shares, Hurricane Capital will hold 49%. When Lu Feng heard this, he looked at Zhang Fengxia. He even doubted whether she was helping Zhang Xiaoyan steal his property, giving more than 200 million yuan, and giving up the position of the major shareholder. Zhang Fengxia quietly glared at him, as if to say, do you want money or a wife? If you don't want to, forget it. Yes. He is happy in his heart. I told you before, he has a stupid face, but now he is secretly happy, Zhang Fengxia said to Lu Feng, isn't that right? Lu Feng reluctantly nodded. Smile. Hey. In the evening, Zhang Fengxia called someone to buy some vegetables, drove Lu Feng into the kitchen to cook, tied an apron on him, and whispered, perform well, if you want to be beautiful, you have to endure hardships. She didn't look good on me, Lu Feng sighed. She didn't eat you alive, so she already gave you a lot of face, okay. Do you still want to look good? Zhang Fengxia glared at him and whispered, you are used to being complimented outside, right? Can't you tell the difference between good and bad at home? She feels aggrieved. Does she still have to kneel at the door to greet you? That's not necessary. Cook well, otherwise you won't sleep on the sofa at night. Zhang Fengxia pinched her waist after saying this. Why are you so angry? Lu Feng asked depressedly, weren't you like this before? Nonsense, I have become a member of this family, why should I be polite to you? She said rather arrogantly, you still miss me and you. Lu Feng hadn't cooked for a long time. While cooking, he sighed inwardly. He was indeed a little kitten outside and a tigress at home. This meal was considered a lively one for this family. Zhang Fengxia and Zhang Xiaoyan chatted animatedly and laughed from time to time. They also drank some red wine. After Duo Duo returned to the house, they exchanged some dirty jokes from time to time. After dinner, Lu Feng put away the dishes, washed the pot and dishes. It was already past 9 o'clock in the evening when he finished his work. He sat on the sofa and watched TV and chatted. You sleep in the guest room tonight. Sister Xiaoyan and I will sleep together and chat for a while. Zhang Fengxia ate fruit and said, by the way, you mentioned investing in the internet before. During this time, I have learned about the development of the internet at home and abroad. After a while, I feel that it is more conceptual, and there are not many profitable companies, so it seems a bit early to get involved now. Latest website. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 1282. Latest website. Lu Feng is not too anxious about investing in the internet. Most of the current internet companies cannot survive more than 2 years, and more than 90% of internet companies are unprofitable. Without a clear direction, they are like a useless business. Bumping around like a fly on his head. After chatting on the internet for a long time, it was almost 11 o'clock. Zhang Fengxia took Zhang Xiaoyan upstairs to rest. Duo Duo had to study early tomorrow morning and went to bed early. Meow Meow was also picked up by the nanny. Lu Feng was the only one left in the empty living room. After yawning, Lu Feng stood up and walked towards the room, muttering, "Who said my wife is so good?" After staying at home for a few days, Lu Feng focused on investigating the mobile phone terminal market. It was still the sales of parts and components. The profit from the sales of complete mobile phones alone was not very high. The most profitable part was the sales of accessories. After Lu Feng transferred 250 million to Zhang Xiaoyan's personal account, Hua She's problem was finally solved. With the change of equity and Zhang Fengxia helping her change a management model, the company finally stabilized. This year, it rained very frequently in the south. It rained every 3 days in March. Lu Feng saw in some media that experts mentioned the El Niño effect many times in their extreme weather warnings. Lu Feng held a special meeting for major companies and asked them to prepare for flood prevention to ensure that important assets would not be damaged. At the meeting, Lu Feng repeatedly emphasized that this matter should be handled as a top priority. At the same time, major companies appropriate some funds to purchase flood prevention items. Countries with heavy rainfall are well aware of it. Meteorological departments have plans for extreme weather, but knowing that there will be heavy rainfall will never prevent disasters. No one knows how big the heavy rainfall will be and how long it will last, let alone rivers and cities. Infrastructure construction such as drainage and flood control projects cannot be completed in a few months. Lu Feng was afraid that the people below him would not be careful, so he made a special trip to the Tianjin factory to check the internal flood control facilities. At the same time, he was aware of possible disasters. When passing through Hunan, Hubei and other places, he also told the local leaders, The other party said that preparations started a month ago. Flood control is a systematic project and cannot be given by a layman. Lu Feng did not dare to give any advice. He just called Gao Jiwei and asked him to produce more emergency foods such as instant noodles and mineral water. If there was no disaster, he would also will buy in full. In early April, Hurricane Semiconductor delivered the first batch of national centralized procurement computers, totaling 17,000 sets, and also delivered the first batch of AMD 6-inch wafers. Hurricane Semiconductor turned a profit in the first quarter. At the same time, the 8-inch wafer officially left the experimental stage and entered trial production. Lu Feng and Liukan held a small meeting on the phone. By the end of 1998, the 8-inch wafer will be mass-produced. Giddy mobile phones are still in the research and development stage. Compared with Jiexun mobile phones' candy bar phones, Giddy's first mobile phone will adopt a clamshell model. Due to the decline in raw material prices and the increase in domestic supporting companies, the price will drop from the original 5,000 yuan, directly to about 2,000 yuan. This is also in line with Lu Feng's price of 3 to 5 months salary for the entire mobile phone consumer group. Hurricane Capital's total R/U0026D expenses this year are approximately $100 million. According to Su Yurong's previous assumptions, this hole will be Lu Feng's fatal flaw. Until the beginning of the new year, Lu Feng had no good place to raise the money. He could only lend his personal funds to the company. The annualized rate was 13%, which was indeed a bit high, but it was good to have enough funds to overdo it. In April, Hurricane Semiconductor's second-generation products are all mature. A series of products such as mobile phone communication chips, storage, mobile phone screens, and motherboards have been launched. The OEM mode has been launched again. Zhu Lidong lectures everywhere, holds various entrepreneur forums, and deceives companies. Family entered the electronics industry to start a business. If rich people like them don't start a business, who will Hurricane Semiconductor sell so many things to? Hurricane Semiconductor's products have also officially taken over Huaqiangbei. Compared with TSMC in the previous generation, this time they met their opponents. Hurricane's products are cheaper, and the price is lower in mobile phone assembly. A large number of assembly machines were produced and then sold. Northern market. During this period, Lu Feng also made 2 trips abroad, including one trip to Sweden to inspect the Ruxin R/U0026D Center, which has become an important technical support for Giddy mobile phones. I also made a trip to Fuzhou, focusing on negotiations with Rome Semiconductor. This company is also an old acquaintance with Lu Feng. Both parties are willing to establish a R/U0026D Center in Fuzhou, with the main focus on IC, optical components, modules, etc. The cooperation model remains the same. It was Hurricane Capital that provided the main capital, and they provided the people, and both parties learned and explored from each other. At the same time, Hurricane Capital will play the role of helping them open up the mainland market. The two parties signed a letter of intent. Due to funding issues, it may not be possible within a year. This trip to Fuzhou gained a lot, mainly because it verified that after the last mutual visit, Lu Feng's international fugitive status was basically eliminated. At the same time, when negotiating with many semiconductor companies, everyone expressed their support for the trip. BNG's resentment. According to them, this person is a real Japanese traitor. Compared with the domestic companies in Fuzhou, the suppression of Lu Feng is really gentle. Many companies were required to relocate to Silicon Valley and hand over some core information. It can be said that Watanabe leaves no room for trouble when it comes to dealing with his own people. During the private talks, several entrepreneurs expressed their intention to kill this person openly and secretly. Lu Feng also echoed that he had a path in Thailand, but everyone passed it off. Back in the country, the south has entered the flood season, and the first rainfall is about to come. Lu Feng inspects the company for the second time. He knows what will happen next, but he is powerless to stop it. From what Lu Feng learned about the situation, the country has been preparing since last year, and after the new year, the highest level leaders came to personally deploy it. This is no longer an unprepared battle, but a situation that is fully dealt with. In the second quarter, Hurricane semiconductor shipments were stable. United Securities' second quarter profits increased by 37%. The stock price surged and the market value exceeded $25 billion. Because the industrial park has been under construction for several months, the first funding to get it in place, Lu Feng borrowed $180 million from United Securities for the capital needs of the industrial park. After several years of technology accumulation, the industries under Hurricane Capital have officially entered a mature stage. Semiconductors, securities, food, and banks have begun to make profits. In the second quarter, all companies under Hurricane Capital made a total profit of 67 million yuan. However, Lu Feng don't care about profit. A series of equipment such as photolithography machines will be eliminated in a few years. Now that international restrictions on domestic restrictions have been relaxed a lot, Lu Feng plans to completely replace semiconductor equipment after 2000. At the same time, the mobile phone business will also enter the market starting next year. Money-burning war. In June, heavy rains began to continue in the areas south of the Yangtze River, and the flood season had arrived. The flood control preparations over the past 6 months withstood the first wave of impact, but they were in danger of being hit by the second wave in July. Lu Feng asked GMA Food to transport all stored mineral water and instant noodles to the disaster area as soon as possible. Xiangjiang also launched a charity performance to raise funds. The charity fund established under Lu Feng's name invested 50 million yuan to purchase flood-fighting materials in surrounding countries. In mid-July, the domestic floods had become international news. Suddenly one day, the person in charge of the fund called Lu Feng and said that he had received a huge donation from abroad. Donate? Our foundation does not solicit donations from outside. Lu Feng was a little puzzled and asked, "Do you know who donated it?" "It was transferred from a Swiss bank." "There is only one opinion on it, Jia. G. should be someone named Zhang." Lu Feng was stunned for a moment, and he already knew who it was, so he said, "I know, let's use this money to purchase supplies." Lu Feng did not donate through some public channels. After purchasing the materials, the flood-fighting team formed by the company contacted the front lines of the disaster area and delivered the materials directly. Due to severe flooding, the construction period of the industrial park had to be postponed. The first phase of the project was originally completed in August, but had to be postponed to after October. In Switzerland, Su Yurong's due date has arrived. After 7 months of development, the agency company under her name has become a medium-sized enterprise with hundreds of people. It cooperates with 47 medium and large financial companies in Europe, not only to introduce work, but also to apply for work visas for some people who want to stay in European countries. Because this type of intermediary belongs to the twilight zone and is purely a scam, the company started to make profits in less than 3 months. Its business direction is to face wealthy people from Asian countries, help them with immigration and introduce them. Get a job, buy a house, buy a car. Most of the people who go abroad who have access to Su Yurong's company are wealthy people in China. Their method of introduction is to use various local legal loopholes and try every means to extract funds from these people who have just left the country. If it succeeds, it's the agency's credit. If it doesn't, the other party is unfamiliar with the place in Europe and can't do anything to the staff. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon on August 15, Su Yurong finished giving birth. The nurse held the baby in front of her and said in broken Chinese, "Congratulations, Ms. Zhang, you are so healthy." When Su Yurong heard that it was indeed her son, a smile appeared on her face. She had done a color ultrasound a few months ago, and the doctor said it was her son. Now her heart was finally settled. After returning to the ward and resting for a few hours, the nurse completed a series of checks on the baby and sent it to her. Suyorong looked at the ugly guy in her arms and muttered, "In ancient times, you were the eldest son. It's a pity that he is not the eldest son. It's not your fault, it's because my mother didn't work hard enough." Latest website. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 1283. Latest website. As the flood season ended, the floods also disappeared. Afterwards, all companies under hurricane capital were counted because the flood still caused tens of millions of asset losses. 2 factories were invaded by water, and the warehouse also suffered varying degrees of damage. After the flood season ended, Lu Feng went to the factory to convene a meeting as soon as possible, and directly rubbed the factory leaders from head to toe. After 1,000 warnings and instructions, something still went wrong. Several factories in Huasha also suffered serious losses. Zhang Xiaoyan was traveling across the country during Duoduo's summer vacation. She called Lu Feng and said that her mother seemed to be cannibalistic. In late August, Lu Feng returned to Hong Kong, attended a global semiconductor conference, and formally applied to join the Global Semiconductor Industry Association to introduce Hurricane semiconductor products to the Hong Kong market. Lu Feng made a speech at the conference. He had no worries about the current global semiconductor dilemma. Industrial expansion, rising inventories, and price wars will all disappear with development. He made a prediction for the development of semiconductors in the next 10 years and officially declared a hurricane to the world. Capital once again enters the mobile phone industry. It is expected that Hurricane Capital will once again establish an international marketing department in 1999. They will spare no effort to impact the international market. They always believe that only by going global can there be a future. They always believe that only products that people around the world like are what Hurricane Capital should do. This speech means that in more than a year, Lu Feng has completely overcome the crisis of GFN Group and reborn Hurricane Capital in the shortest possible time. As the international environment relaxes, Hurricane Capital will usher in explosive growth. In the afternoon, there was a closed-door meeting. All the world's major semiconductor manufacturers came today. Lu Feng negotiated with ST Microelectronics and Infineon, hoping that the two sides could cooperate more. These two companies were not very interested in Hurricane semiconductors and chatted. They broke up unhappy within half an hour. The United States and Europe are closely aligned in terms of semiconductors. Apart from AMD, Lu Feng is not very popular in the United States. Instead, he is quite popular among companies in Fuzhou. After chatting with the representative of Rome Semiconductor for a while, Lu Feng learned that Watanabe had recently started acting like a monster again. He suggested to his superiors that all Fuzhou semiconductor and electronics-related companies should be relocated to the United States. As long as they wanted to sell their products in the United States, then all core technologies need to be disclosed. After moving to the United States, part of the tax needs to be paid to the United States. After a while, Sharp and Toshiba also gathered together. Toshiba's investigation is not over yet, and the other party has been asking them to break up because it involves monopoly. Toshiba was messed with, and I still think it was Watanabe who reported it there, and I gnash my teeth when I say it. When talking about Toshiba being reported for violating the sanctions agreement, Lu Feng sat silently beside him. The person in charge who was present on behalf of Toshiba cursed angrily, "The person who reported it will definitely be in bad luck. It's really uncomfortable to be hummed by such a person all the time. Only Kinri can be a thief, how can a Kinri guard against thieves?" Lu Feng whispered to several people, "Don't you have any ideas?" Several people looked at each other. The senior management had already discussed some things, but it was just inconvenient to do. No one could guarantee whether there were still 25 boys around them. After all, Being at 25 boys in this era meant living in the United States. It is the dream of many Fuzang people to live a life in which people become masters. Mr. Liu, do you have any ideas? There are ideas, but they need support. Lu Feng looked at a few people and said, let's go back and discuss some things. Sooner or later, we need to do it, otherwise no one knows what will happen in the future. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the conference dispersed, and Lu Feng returned to his villa. In the evening, he received a call from the assistant to the president of Sharp, inviting Lu Feng to Tokyo. Lu Feng ordered someone to book a flight that day, and he already knew in his heart that this time Watanabe was really going to die soon. In New York, in a conference room at the Goldman Sachs headquarters, Watanabe and his team were sitting at attention. A few minutes later, a white man in his 50s walked in. After the man sat down, he looked at Watanabe and said, about your views on the Fuzhou semiconductor industry. Opinions are taken seriously by the superiors, and you have worked hard in the past 2 years. It should be, Watanabe said with a happy face. Calling everyone here today is a commendation. In the first half of this year, the development of high-tech enterprises in Asia has been hit, especially in the semiconductor field. Fuzhou's global semiconductor share continues to shrink. The only flaw is that China's hurricane semiconductor development rather quickly. The suggestion made by Shimo Watanabe 2 years ago to support Samsung and TSMC has now formed a new force in Asia. We don't want to have 2 prominent companies in Asia. We will have to pay more attention to this hurricane semiconductor in the future. Desert. You must work hard. I believe that as long as you do a good job, it will be visible from above. In the future, you will no longer have to work in civil organizations, and entering the Asian office will not be a big problem. Watanabe was overjoyed when he heard this and quickly thanked him. If he really entered the Asia office, he would have completely entered the real upper-class society in the United States. The next day, Lu Feng went to Tokyo. After the plane landed, Sharp sent a special car to pick him up from the hotel where he had been prepared. He ate in the hotel at noon. At about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, a group of more than a dozen people entered the conference room. Mr. Liu, we are very interested in the Thai road you mentioned before. If we can get things done and the risks are within control, we are willing to spend some money, President Sharp said very sincerely. I'm just a human being. I'm not very good at how to get in there, various interpersonal relationships, carrying tools, and ensuring the safety of personnel. Afterwards, Lu Feng said frankly, this matter is very easy, but how can I let those people do it afterwards? If people keep their mouths shut, events will not ferment, which requires a lot of thought. You don't need to worry about this. We have been working there for many years. Whether it is the congressman, Wall Street, or the media, we all have some connections. As long as this person disappears, at most it will be a short news report, and there will be no other news. The person in charge of Toshiba said. Then this matter will be easier to handle. Through this matter, I believe that our cooperation can reach a higher level. You should also have heard about some recent news about Samsung and TSMC. In the future, the semiconductor market it's going to be a crowded market and no one knows who's going to be pushed out. Lu Feng said to the crowd, although we are average in technology, the potential of the mainland market is unlimited. Since we want to cooperate for a long time, we must show sincerity. In some core areas, we also hope to have more exchanges. You have the technology. We can help you market it. In fact, everyone did not attach much importance to the mainland market that Lu Feng mentioned. The current consumption power of the mainland market is too small. They were so anxious to get rid of Watanabe because they heard that he was likely to enter the Asian office. Once successful, Watanabe will spare no effort in making suggestions, so it is really his time to rest now. In terms of technical cooperation, Lu Feng put forward some requirements, including the Tokyo R/U0026D center that he had previously discussed with Rome Semiconductor. This time, he invited more companies to join in and establish the largest semiconductor R/U00260 center in Asia. Throughout the afternoon, there were intentions to cooperate in many aspects, and the overall atmosphere was good. These companies had good dealings with Lu Feng, not only focusing on the mainland market, but the entire Asian market. Toshiba still has the idea of continuing to sell products to Russia. Market barriers in Europe and the United States are getting higher and higher. When selling products to countries that have been sanctioned, the unit price profit is very high. If this risk can be transferred through Lu Feng, they will be happy. After staying in Fuzhang for 3 days, and after everything was settled, Lu Feng called the Thai authorities and asked them to find a skilled person who was willing to do the job. This vote would give him $500,000. After the deal was completed, someone would send him to Africa. He can pick any country. Generally speaking, those who are willing to do such high-risk things are those who cannot survive in the local area and are out to fight for their lives. However, if you have some means, you will not take this kind of job. Who knows if you will kill people after you succeed? Silence. However, with the mysterious rich man's credit endorsement, someone took the order in less than 2 days. After the two parties completed the docking, Lu Feng got up and returned to Xiangjiang. At the end of September, Watanabe went to work as usual at the company. In the evening, he went to the underground garage to get into his car. Suddenly, a man ran out from behind the car next to him. He held a pistol equipped with a suppressor in his hand and pointed the magazine directly at him. Empty. The killer stepped forward to check and confirmed that he was dead, then rushed out of the underground garage, then entered a surrounding shopping mall and disappeared. This incident caused a sensation internally, but there were not many reports in the media. Just as imagined in the previous meeting, almost the news media reported it as a quick news report without much fuss. On September 15, Su Yurong left the medical center and returned to her residence. According to local custom, she could leave 3 days after giving birth. However, Su Yurong insisted on confinement. In the end, for the sake of hundreds of thousands of dollars, the medical center said it respects customs. The baby has already opened up, and is chubby. He looks much better than when he was born. Because he needs to be registered, the name is a problem. Ouch, little one, you're already 1 month old. Su Yurong teased the child with his hands and said, it's time for a name. Can you give your dad a call and give him a surprise? Wrong. Su Yurong thought about it for a while and muttered, you should call Zhang Xiaoyan first and clean up the people around you. We are the big winners, and you are my son. Su Yurong rummaged through the box to find the phone book from before. She had previously recorded the landline number of Lu Feng's Shenzhen villa. It took her a long time to find it. When she called, Zhang Xiaoyan and Zhang Fengxia were not at home, so Duo picked up. Who is it? My mother is not here. I have to call her on her cell phone about work matters. Duo picked up the phone and said casually. How many? If your mother isn't here, tell me that you have an extra brother. Su Yurong said with a bit of teasing, Auntie helped give birth, so she doesn't need to thank her. Latest website. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 1284. Latest website. Duo was confused after hanging up the phone. She was no longer a child, and she understood that her family seemed different from other people's families, but it was definitely not a small matter for other aunts to help their mothers give birth. She was a little smart, but she didn't know much about adult matters. She was anxious at home and didn't know what to do until the evening. Zhang Xiaoyan came back at 7 o'clock in the evening. When she saw that Duo had not written a few words on her homework, she yelled, "What did you do at home all afternoon? Watching TV again?" "No. If you don't believe me, touch the TV. It's not hot at all." Duo was afraid that her mother wouldn't believe it, so she pulled her to touch the TV. Then why didn't you write a word in this paper? How many times have I told you, this is already the third grade of junior high school, and you thought it was the second grade of junior high school? The exam will be taken next summer. Jang Xiaoyan began to preach. Mom, let me ask you something. Duo walked forward cautiously. What's the matter? Do you want money? Let me tell you, there is no door, I haven't written a single question, and you still want pocket money. Jang Xiaoyan refused directly. It's not about money. Let me ask you, are you feeling uncomfortable after Aunt Fengxia gave birth to a baby? Duo asked. It's not uncomfortable. It's a good thing to add more people to the family, Jang Xiaoyan said somewhat against her will. Really? Duo became happy, grabbed Jang Xiaoyan's hand and said, Mom, let me tell you another good thing. Another aunt has added to our family. This time I also have a younger brother. What did you say? Jang Xiaoyan asked with a look of shock. Who? Who gave you a younger brother? An aunt called me this afternoon. She said so. Duo told the story exactly. Jang Xiaoyan felt like the sky was falling. She finally accepted Zhang Fengxia, but Su Yurong showed up again? She sat on the sofa for a long time and couldn't come to her senses. Mom, what's wrong with you? Duo felt that something was not good. It's okay, you go and do your homework. Zhang Xiaoyan reacted from her days. She has seen strong winds and waves in these years. Her first reaction was that the other party had given birth to a son. Once he entered this family, what would his future be like? Zhang Xiaoyan told herself not to think too much about this. She went upstairs and took out her mobile phone to call Zhang Fengxia in the capital. After the call was connected, she told the matter again. Zhang Fengxia was also stunned. How could there be someone like her who wanted to use it? The same trick to sneak into this family? She would never allow this. Does Lu Feng know? Zhang Fengxia asked. What's his attitude? I feel like he doesn't know, otherwise he would have told you a long time ago. I estimate that Su Yurong doesn't know about you, so she is calling me now just to force me to leave. Zhang Xiaoyan guessed. This possibility is extremely high. We cannot let Lu Feng know about this. Zhang Fengxia didn't know what Lu Feng's attitude was towards her son. If Lu Feng liked his son very much, it would be difficult for them to keep this person away. You call her first, don't make things too tense, and find a way to give her some money. We can raise this child. Zhang Fengxia offered advice. Then I'll contact her first and find out what she means. Zhang Xiaoyan was a little unsure. She knew what kind of person Su Yurong was. He had a lot of money, and she didn't have much money. She didn't care about the time difference and directly called Su Yurong's phone number. It was noon in Switzerland at the moment. I'm Zhang Xiaoyan, did you call me at noon? Zhang Xiaoyan asked. Yes. Duo should have told you, right? Now that the child is 1 month old, we can't leave the child without a father, right? My idea of calling you is very simple. You and Lu Feng have been divorced for many years, and now there is so much delay. It's just for money and children. Su Yurong said to the phone, I can give you a sum of money, and I won't stop Duo from coming to my house to play in the future. Life is short, it's time to find a home. Zhang Xiaoyan wanted to give her money to let her go, but before she could say anything, the other party handed her a sum of money. Lu Feng and I are in a relationship. Our relationship has improved recently and we are planning to remarry. Besides, you said the child is his? Is it his? Zhang Xiaoyan asked. Su Yurong chuckled lightly on the other end of the phone. If he told Lu Feng about this, he would never ask such a question. You can do a paternity test, you can do it casually. Ms. Zhang, I know you quite well. I have always felt that your journey has not been easy. Things have reached this stage and we need to solve the problem. There is already a relationship between you and Lu Feng. After dragging it on for so many years, if I give you another 10 years, you will be too old and yellow to have children. Why don't you take some money, find a young and handsome guy, and live your own happy life? Zhang Xiaoyan didn't know how to refute what she said, so she hummed for a while and said, "No, I like him. I can give you a sum of money as maternity compensation. If you don't want to take care of the child, you can give it to me." "Look at what you are saying it completely as someone else's wife. Give me a sum of money? Do you think of me as the mistress who gave birth to a son? You must understand the situation clearly. You are already divorced, but it's just that Lu Feng can't bear to leave you. We are equal, there is no such thing as me seducing your man. And now I have his child, a son. What about you? I didn't tell Lu Feng and contacted you first because I wanted to save your last face. If I take the child back directly and you are kicked out of the house, it's very ugly," Su Yurong reasoned in a persuasive manner. Zhang Xiaoyan held the mobile phone in her hand, and she didn't know what to say for a moment. This woman was obviously bullying others, but she looked like she was thinking about herself. She began to understand that she was no match for this woman in terms of words. "You may not know that a lot has happened this year. Where are you now? Let's meet and talk," Zhang Xiaoyan suggested. "There's no need to meet. The child is still young now and it's not convenient for me to reveal my whereabouts. I'll give you half a month. If we can't resolve it within half a month, tell Lu Feng and I believe he will give you some advice." The answer. Su Yurong hung up the phone immediately after speaking. Zhang Xiaoyan was sitting in the living room on the second floor, feeling a little decadent. She took a deep breath and smoothed her hair with her hands, then called Zhang Fengxia and recounted the conversation just now. Zhang Fengxia could tell that she had encountered a difficult character. Instead of waiting for her to communicate with Lu Feng, she might as well go ahead and see what he meant. Zhang Fengxia felt that instead of talking on the phone, she went directly to Xiangjiang to talk to him in person. At the end of October, when Lu Feng was busy, the first phase of the Giddy Industrial Park project was about to be completed. He had visited the Overseas Procurement Assembly line several times and had recently held a meeting on how to choose an overseas sales model. She didn't get home until after 9 o'clock in the evening. In the morning, Zhang Xiaoyan called and said that she and Zhang Fengxia would come back to stay for a few days during the weekend. If they hadn't come back, Lu Feng would never have been able to leave after 9 o'clock. "What time did you arrive?" Lu Feng entered the house and saw two people sitting on the sofa in the living room. The table was filled with fruits. They were neither watching TV nor talking. The atmosphere was a bit serious. "We're here in the morning, have you been drinking?" Zhang Xiaoyan pointed to a seat aside and said, "Sit down and give him a glass of water to sober up." The nanny put a glass of hangover water with glucose in it on the table. Lu Feng took 2 sips and asked, "What's wrong? Why are you looking at me? Didn't I go shopping? What are you doing?" "What do you think?" Zhang Fengxia was the first to speak. She stared at Lu Feng with a serious expression, a bit questioning. "What's wrong with me?" Lu Feng spread his hands and said, "You two came here to interrogate the prisoner. If one day you suddenly have a son, would you choose us or the son?" Zhang Xiaoyan asked. "Son?" Lu Feng was stunned for a moment and looked at the two of them. He didn't know why they suddenly asked this. Then there was only one possibility, and that was that he really had a son. Lu Feng looked at the expressions of the two of them. They were serious and focused. It didn't look like they were joking. Moreover, the two of them were in agreement, so it was unlikely that they had quarreled with each other over the birth of a son. Then there was only one possibility left, that he really suddenly had a son. Lu Feng frantically passed the time, trying to recall who was most likely. After much thought, there was only one person left, and that was Su Yurong. "Are you talking? Your eyes are rolling around. What are you planning?" Zhang Fengxia said with a bit of grievance in her voice, her eyes slightly red. "Do you need to think twice when talking to your family?" "No, I don't know anything. You two asked me in disbelief. Do I have to think about what I did wrong? Lu Feng knew in his heart that if it was Su Yorong who gave birth to a son, this woman must not entering the house. He said casually and firmly, I definitely want you to. Well, we received a call from overseas, saying that someone has given birth to a son for you and wants Sister Xiao Yan to get out of this house. It's up to you. Zhang Fengxia directly showed her cards and said, you are very familiar with this person. Come on, Su Yorong, Mr. Su. Even if she has a child, I won't accept it. Neither of you can leave this home. Lu Feng stood up and said, I'm here to express my position. No one in this family can live without you two. In my life, work hard and the money you make will belong to both of you, I swear to God. Zhang Fengxia was a little moved when she heard this, and said with a smile, that's pretty much it. What about the child? Things have to be solved. My idea is to take over the child. Zhang Xiaoyan pondered for a while and said, it's okay for our family to raise a child. No, Zhang Fengxia said hurriedly, we absolutely cannot have this child. It will definitely be troublesome when he grows up. Then let her raise it by herself. Lu Feng sat down, lit a cigarette and said, I don't recognize him. What can she do? Can she still insist on recognizing me as her father? The three of them all felt that as long as they refused to admit it, what else could Su Yorong do? This time, all three of them underestimated Su Yorong. Latest website. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 1285. Latest website. What Zhang Fengxia and Zhang Xiaoyan wanted was Lu Feng's attitude. Since he expressed this attitude, there would be no other problems. The atmosphere in the living room had relaxed a lot, and Lu Feng was secretly thinking that Su Yorong had retained such a hand. It seemed that she was well prepared for the final farewell. Only 1,000 days to be a thief, how can there be 1,000 days to guard against thieves? Lu Feng said, and it is right. While chatting, Lu Feng asked about the situation in the investment department. Zhang Fengxia had gone to many liquor companies during this period. Her investment philosophy was conservative, her products had enough moats, and she could support the brand. Such a company will continue to make profits. As for technology companies, she would never invest in them because the risks were too high. Which liquor are you going to vote for? Lu Feng asked. Fengjiu. Fengjiu is booming now. Zhang Fengxia had obviously gone to inspect it. It's better to invest in Mutai, Lu Feng said casually. For this type of investment, you have to refer more to the experiences of developed countries. As long as you separate the previous paths of developed countries, which industries will develop fastest and when? Then vote for whatever. For turtles like Zhang Fengxia, who have lived abroad for many years, investing should not be too simple. They have enough funds and resources to make money in their sleep. After chatting with Hua Sha for a long time, the business at home was currently in a stable state. Unknowingly, it was 12 o'clock in the evening. Lu Feng yawned and said, you two ran over here without saying a word. Can't we talk on the phone? Or are you planning to beat me up if you are even slightly dissatisfied? We are really ready to deal with you. Zhang Fengxia raised her fist and said, beat you. Zhang Xiaoyan sat aside and smiled without saying a word, and said, go to rest early. School starts the day after tomorrow, so I have to go back early. I'm going back too. The ribbon cutting is about to be held in the industrial park. The assembly lines will come in this month and production can start. Lu Feng looked very busy as he talked about his upcoming arrangements and had no time to talk to Su Yorong. Zhang Fengxia and Zhang Xiaoyan lived in the same room. They had been together for a while. Lu Feng slept next to Duoduo's room. Not long after he fell asleep, Duoduo knocked on the door and walked in. What's wrong? Lu Feng sat up and asked, can't you sleep? Dad, there is something on my mind that I want to tell you. Duo walked to the bed and said. Ouch, Lu Feng picked her up and put her next to the bed and said, if you have anything to say, just say it. We are the eldest daughter. As the eldest daughter, we can't have anything on our mind. Whatever happens, we'll take care of it. That younger brother is pretty good. I want a younger brother. For it. Lu Feng never expected that this child would actually want a younger brother, so he whispered, go and close the door. Duo closed the door and said to Lu Feng, let that ant come into our house, how lively it will be. It's so lively. How can it not be lively with all the dancing? Why do you want a younger brother? Lu Feng asked. I can play with him after I finish my homework. I am having so much fun playing with Meow Meow now. I am the emperor and she is the eunuch. They kneel there and kowtow to me every day, Duo said happily. Lu Feng rubbed his face with his hands, a little speechless, and asked, you are already in the 3rd grade of junior high school, why are you still so childish? It's not naive, it's based on history. I am Wu Zaishan and she is Shang Guanwaner. Duo introduced the history of the Tang dynasty to Lu Feng in a serious manner. Okay, I want to have a younger brother. Dad, work hard. We don't need help from other ants. You can focus on your studies and get into a good high school next year. It's better than anything else. Go to bed early, Lu Feng. He patted her and said, you're a big girl, don't be so childish. Zhang Xiaoyan and Zhang Fengxia were both unable to sleep while lying in bed. Lu Feng had such a big industry and was not an ordinary family. Even though he was young and didn't care now, he would definitely have a son when he got older. No matter who gave birth to him, his future status in this family would be it's definitely different. Zhang Xiaoyan was secretly helpless. The fact that she was not born like this was a fatal problem. If she could adopt Duo, could she adopt another son? Will the family property be distributed to the adopted son in the future? Not to mention that Lu Feng and Zhang Fengxia would not agree to this matter, Zhang Xiaoyan herself would never agree. The therapeutic thoughts that had been extinguished for many years have once again started to burn. After a night of silence, the family of 5 returned to Shenzhen the next morning. Lu Feng rushed to the industrial park shortly after returning. Most of the site was not hardened and was muddy. The factory building had been built, the assembly lines were being unloaded, and 10 buildings had been built. One is used as an office building, and the remaining 9 are staff dormitories. Mr. Lu, there are currently only 5 factories, 2 warehouses, 1 canteen, and 9 employee dormitories. This open space will be hardened this year and used as a leisure area for employees. It will later be able to accommodate 8,000 employees. The rest will be we can only rent out rooms. The area in front is the second phase of the project, which is mainly for the follow-up factory construction. To the east is the factory area of supporting enterprises, the person in charge introduced. Go and take a look at the factory. Lu Feng walked towards the factory. A large area in front of the factory has been hardened and marked with road signs, and a row of crooked trees has been planted. Arriving at the warehouse, Lu Feng measured the width in front of the door with his eyes and asked, is it too narrow? Is the warehouse going to be? It's a bit narrow for trucks entering and exiting the site. When we build another warehouse later, we need to keep the distance apart. Lu Feng walked inside and walked around. The basic conditions for moisture, rain, and fire protection were pretty good. What are these? Lu Feng looked at a bunch of lines in the corner. These are reserved network cables, monitoring lines, electric wires, etc., because the construction drawings require the construction of a first-class warehouse. The warehouse will be connected to the internet, and every entry and exit must be connected to the internet, with full monitoring coverage. Lu Feng nodded, and then took a sightseeing bus to watch the employee training. They were all uniformed in uniform. Since there was not a large auditorium, the military training was held in an open space in the southeast corner. How long does it take for technical training to be completed? Lu Feng asked the factory director. Currently, part of the technical training has been carried out. Because there is no on-the-job training, it is only theoretical training. We estimate it will take a week. Because the division of labor is very detailed, it will not be difficult to get started, the factory director said. It will be put into production in November and put into the hands of dealers in December. We will hold a press conference and advertise on CCTV. This year we will spend a lot of money on the Spring Festival Gala, Lu Feng said seriously. The construction period, there can be no delay. I inspected the factory for a week. Although it is relatively simple now, in the future it will be fully expanded and can accommodate more than 10,000 employees. Based on current market demand, the production capacity of more than 10,000 people will be enough to meet Giddy's needs. After coming out of the factory, he asked about the time for the ribbon cutting tomorrow. Lu Feng then went straight to the headquarters of Giddy Mobile in Shenzhen. Du Guoying rented a 5-story office building here. For the past 6 months, all departments have been basically complete. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, everyone walked into the conference room and reported to Lu Feng on the design, sales, advertising, brand marketing, after sales, investment promotion, etc. of Giddy mobile phones. At the beginning of the year, didn't you tell me that you were going to attend the Spring Festival Gala? Lu Feng asked Du Guoying. How was it? The price is a bit expensive, Du Guoying sighed. The price has increased again this year. At the best time, the price per second is as high as 1 million. I think it is not very cost effective, and I am thinking of another time period as an alternative. Which time period? Lu Feng asked. After the news broadcast ends at 7:30, the weather forecast is followed by advertising time. This time is also very expensive, and they are all sold in packages. Before the news broadcast, there are many cartoons in the time period from 5:30 to 6 o'clock. The children are already in front of the TV, and at this time, parents will not compete with their children for the TV. We can definitely get it within 20 million for 10 minutes, and make a 10-minute mobile phone science advertisement to let people understand what a mobile phone is, what brands there are, and the history of these brands. Du Guoying's face showed a smile. Lu Feng thought for a moment, laughed, and said to Du Guoying, your idea of mobile phone science popularization is definitely the most creative advertisement I have heard in these years. We used popular science electronic products as the reason for the application. In addition, we are an advanced electronics company in the country, and the price can definitely reach around 10 million. We will do 16 episodes of the program, from the 29th of the new year to the 15th of the first lunar month. Du Guoying said with a smile on his face, the vast majority of Chinese people have no concept of mobile phones at the moment. We will first use this program to implant the concept of Giddy mobile phones into everyone's hearts. You are definitely number one in the country when it comes to implanting concepts. This money has been approved, Lu Feng happily approved. In terms of dealers, we have found a few that are deeply involved in various provinces, because they have represented CuteChildren mobile phones before, and these channels are available, but my suggestion is to use self-operated stores in big cities to ensure according to the brand's tone. After-sales branches are established in various provinces. Companies such as Motorola, Nokia, and Ericsson basically have no after-sales service in China. If we want to break through, we must make a fuss about after-sales service. After all, we are new brands. My idea is to use Buy with Confidence as the main promotion point and focus on solving problems consumers are afraid of buying defective products, repairs, etc. Du Guoying thought for a while and said, how about a 3-month guarantee? Either don't do it, or make a huge part of it. If the technology allows, it will be guaranteed for 1 year. As long as it is not damaged by man, it will be repaired for free within 1 year. This matter needs to be communicated with Lyocan and get test data from the R/U0026D side. As long as the cost is not too high, we will do it. Lu Feng knew that the most damaged parts of current mobile phones were the buttons, cables, and batteries, especially the display cables. It would cost a lot of money to replace one. Throughout the afternoon, Lu Feng was quite excited. Du Guoying put forward many marketing ideas that made Lu Feng's eyes light up. Latest website. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 1286. Latest website. The meeting lasted all afternoon, and the overall plan was quite good. Zhu Lidong was in charge of the market channels. In order to facilitate communication between the two parties, Zhu Lidong sent a team to stay here. Lu Feng separated the market channels from the mobile phone company mainly to prevent one company from becoming dominant and causing factions within the group. It is best for each major business to have me among you and me among you. However, even so, there were many cases of arguing with each other. Du Guoying privately complained to Zhu Lidong, thinking that he was not paying attention to the mobile phone channel. Zhu Lidong said that the progress required by Du Guoying was too fast and they simply could not achieve it. In the short term, such mutual restraint can maintain a balance, but Lu Feng understands that if he wants to grow bigger in the future, he must separate the companies and compete in performance by grouping projects within the entire group. After the meeting, Lu Feng was about to get up and leave when Du Guoying whispered, "Mr. Lu, I have something to ask you for help." "Me?" Lu Feng looked at him in surprise and said, "Please tell me." Nowadays, foreign brands have such a large share in the country that it is difficult to reverse the situation in the short term in terms of public opinion. We need an influential person to come forward and talk to them so that our brand can occupy the media headlines for a period of time, Du Guoying said. "You want me to go out and scold Motorola?" Lu Feng asked. "My idea is, go out and catch whoever you want to scold." He also felt that this request was a bit excessive and smiled awkwardly. If it were a few years ago, when he was just making TV sets, Lu Feng would definitely not hesitate to respond to such a request. At that time, he was a little-known person who was well known for his position. Now he has more identities and titles. Not to mention swearing, his speech has become more polite. However, when it comes to asking for money or face, Lu Feng's choice has been consistent from beginning to end. "Then leave this matter to me. If there are any mobile or communication activities recently, you can help me contact someone," Lu Feng agreed. Du Guoying was quite surprised that Lu Feng agreed so readily, and he nodded hastily and agreed. The next day, at around 9 o'clock in the morning, ribbons were hung in Giddy Industrial Park, a red carpet was laid out on an open space in the park, a temporary stage was set up, and thousands of employees gathered together. Although it is late autumn, fortunately the weather in Shenzhen is not too cold. Today, God has given me face, the sun is shining on the earth, and the media area on the side has been set up. Not only local TV stations, but also CCTV and some important media are here. Interview. Don't think that a small mobile phone can attract much attention. Today's giddy mobile phones are definitely considered an important domestic industry. Coupled with the influential figure Lu Feng, they are definitely a sensation. As the opening ceremony ended, Mayor Zhang took the stage to speak, followed by Lu Feng's speech. The ribbon cutting officially began at 10 o'clock in the morning, and the first phase of Gitong Industrial Park was completed with applause. Facing countless clicks of photos, Lu Feng smiled. Then a reporter asked, "As the second mobile phone company in China, what do you think of Bird?" "We are the first one. Giddy mobile phones are essentially the continuation of Jiexun mobile phones. We are the first domestic mobile phone company," Lu Feng said seriously. "Well, PHS is now being promoted in Hangzhou. The price of such products is cheaper. Mr. Wu said before that this will be an important starting point for domestic wireless communications, and the PHS model will also completely change GS1M. He said that this type of technology more suitable for our country. What do you think about this? Another reporter asked. Lu Feng had a long history of proficiency in how to stir up trouble. Faced with this problem, he half smiled but said for a while, to be honest, technology like PHS is really a piece of shit. Please allow me to use these words to describe it. It is the international standard wireless communication technology, which is GS1M, which is the 2G we use now. There are some people in our country who pick up some foreign garbage from outside and brag about it. I am embarrassed to say it. We have more than a dozen R/U0026D centers around the world. We cooperate with international companies such as Nokia and Sharp. In the future, we will even cooperate with companies such as Toshiba. I am a relatively reserved person. Our company's technology is definitely the best in the country. It's a big step ahead of other companies. I really don't know where some companies get their confidence. Compared with us in terms of product technology, quality, and service, the reason why I am creating a brand is because I really can't stand it anymore. Let's not talk about Bird and PHS. Well, the most popular mobile phone sold by Motorola this year, GC87C, is this model, right? Many reporters nodded. That mobile phone sells for $4,200. Whether it's workmanship, quality, signal, or storage, to be honest, it's really a piece of shit. We have to bring the price down and improve the quality. No matter how sharp the reporter's questions are, Lu Feng's answers are often more eye-catching. He mentioned all the mobile phones currently on the market, even Nokia. Facing reporters from CCTV, Lu Feng emphasized our /U0026D capabilities, boasted about several available technologies, and said that the era of domestically produced mobile phones has begun. As the media reports came out, ordinary people had no reaction. The mobile phone industry was completely blown away, and ridicule of Lu Feng was endless. Some people even publicly stated that Lu Feng is no longer the Lu Feng who was famous in the past. Don't bring out the tricks of the TV industry back then. It has no meaning other than asking for trouble. You must face the gap and learn more from foreign companies, and even some people blame Lu Feng's arrogance on the Chinese culture. With the announcement of the participation of a number of companies at the Communications Industry Conference on November 1, including Hurricane Capital, a new round of discussion has been triggered. At the end of October, Lu Feng was lying on the sofa watching TV after dinner. Zhang Xiaoyan was knitting a sweater and said casually, "Recently, news about you has been flying all over the sky. What we want is this effect. If a new brand wants to get ahead, it has to create some publicity. Otherwise, how much will it cost to spend on advertising?" Lu Feng said while looking at the TV. "This method is the simplest, and there is nothing more effective than this," Zhang Fengxia added. "There is another way. I marry a female celebrity and attract media attention from the beginning of the relationship. Today I go shopping sweetly, and tomorrow I get angry and quarrel with each other until I get married and have children." Lu Feng introduced his marketing plan with a little pride. Every year how much publicity costs can be saved. Zhang Xiaoyan and Zhang Fengxia stopped talking and stared at Lu Feng. Lu Feng turned back to look at the two of them, and then said, "This kind of marketing method is not suitable for me. We can't do everything just to save money, right? Get a female star today, and a small model tomorrow. What about the day after tomorrow? Find a tigress," Zhang Fengxia said in a strange tone. "Aren't there two ends in the family?" Zhang Xiaoyan joked. The two of them laughed and laughed together, and the atmosphere finally became better. "By the way, Su Yorong hasn't called you recently, has he?" Lu Feng asked. "No, don't call her either, just leave it alone," Zhang Xiaoyan said solemnly. In Switzerland, with the onset of winter, the severe cold hit again. Su Yorong did not nurse the child at home during this period, but was busy dealing with the company's affairs. It is difficult for the intermediary industry here to grow bigger. She plans to withdraw part of the equity and find local capital to intervene. She can be a shareholder in peace and receive money every year. Su Yorong's deadline for Zhang Xiaoyan was half a month, but now half a month has passed, and there is no news at all. She feels that she knows Zhang Xiaoyan better. She doesn't have a big plan, is hesitant in doing things, and has a natural personality. The temperament of a housewife. If Lu Feng hadn't been there to keep her informed during this period, she might not even be able to sleep. Since you are not coming, then I will go. Su Yorong looked at the clock on the wall, silently calculated the time difference, held the child in his arms, and dialed Lu Feng's cell phone. Who? Lu Feng answered the phone and asked casually. He was in the office at the moment and would have a meeting with Du Guoying and Zhu Lidong soon. Who do you think I am? I haven't seen you for a year. Do you miss me? Su Yorong asked. Lu Feng glanced at the watch on his wrist. There was still 1 hour left for the meeting. He had enough time and said, "What do you want to do?" "I tell you, you won't get anything." "I can't get it? Didn't I already get a child?" "You shouldn't talk to me in this tone. I haven't seen you for a year. You should care about me. I have continued the incense of your Lu family. Zhang Xiaoyan entered the house like this. I will do it for you directly if you have not done it for many years. At the same time, it also eliminates one of your doubts." "What are your concerns?" Lu Feng wondered. "You can do it, you are great, but she can't," Su Yorong said with a smile. Lu Feng was speechless and said, "When you wanted to conceive this child, you didn't tell me or get my consent. I won't recognize this child." "Agree? When you are busy working, don't you just agree? If you don't agree, why are you tossing me?" Su Yorong said angrily. "Now do this with me. By the way, I'm going back during the Chinese New Year to spend the Chinese New Year with you. I am also a mother, and I hope to hold the wedding next year. It is best to go back to your hometown and invite all the 7 aunts and 8 aunts to attend." "I won't see you when you come back," Lu Feng said solemnly. "Then I will take my children to block your door. If I can't block it, I will go to the newspaper and the TV station to complain. I originally wanted to let my relatives and friends witness it, but since you insist on letting the whole world witness it, then I will also be happy to see it happen." Su Yorong said still calmly. "Do you think it's useful to make a fuss? If you make a big fuss and everyone loses face, you think it's okay?" "Can I accept you?" Lu Feng asked. "Do you have any brains or not? As if I won't get anything if I don't make trouble. I'm barefoot and not afraid of wearing shoes." Su Yorong snorted coldly. "Do you think that if you don't deny it, I won't? Is there any way? I tell you, you will never have peace." Latest website. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 1287. Latest website. I will never have peace? What? You want to mess with me? I tell you, I really don't do this, Lu Feng said solemnly. You can try it? Then we'll see you during the new year, Su Yorong said and hung up the phone. Lu Feng put down his cell phone and frowned. He knew Su Yorong fairly well. This woman would not do anything he was unsure of, but Lu Feng didn't know what kind of backup she had. There was a knock on the office door, and a female clerk's voice came from outside. "Mr. Lu, Mr. Du, and the others are already waiting for you in the conference room." "Okay, got it." Lu Feng stood up and walked out of the office towards the conference room. There were already more than a dozen people waiting in the conference room. Zhu Lidong saw Lu Feng walking over, stood up, and said, "Mr. Lu, I want to see the advertising plan for mobile phone science popularization." "Yes, very good. When did you come back?" Lu Feng asked casually and sat down. "I came back yesterday. I had a meeting with Mr. Du at noon. Mr. Du is definitely the backbone of our group in terms of advertising and marketing. He can take over from Mr. Lu, Zhu Lidong praised. Don't dare, it depends on Mr. Zhu's sales channels, Du Guoying praised. Okay, let's stop flattering each other. Lu Feng looked around at everyone and said, the factory has finished cutting the ribbon and is about to be put into operation. The products have been finalized. Mr. Du has sorted out all the suppliers. What's next? There is only one thing left, and that is to start selling. A series of links including our /U00260, design, factory construction, and procurement took us nearly a year. Don't feel that we have gone through 90% of the way. These links can only be said to be done by us. After passing the 10% mark, whether a product can survive ultimately depends on its sales volume. Before sales increase, everything is zero. Lu Feng's words made the atmosphere at the scene become serious. Then he began to report on the progress in the past few days. Du Guoying mainly introduced the current situation of the factory and the layout of advertising. A few days ago, he was planning to find a popular celebrity to endorse him. Because the price was quite expensive, Lu Feng stopped this matter. It is not suitable for a startup company to find celebrities to endorse it. It can easily lead to insufficient channels and a large number of purchases. If the crowd can't buy it, or fans can buy it, once there is a problem with the quality of the product, it's easy to cause trouble. On this issue, Lu Feng, in addition to asking for advertising on CCTV, the rest is precise advertising. In whichever city the product is sold, he will advertise on local TV stations. CCTV advertising is to establish a brand image, while local advertising is pushed accurately. This way, you can avoid spending a lot of money on CCTV and not being able to buy it in places where there are no sales channels. On the contrary, it is easy to waste advertising fees. The meeting discussed some relatively detailed situations, and Zhu Lidong introduced the sales channels. Currently, there are directly operated stores in 12 provincial capital cities, including one in a large shopping mall in the city center of each provincial capital. Agents have been negotiated with 6 provinces in the south and 5 provinces in the north. The remaining provinces have not been negotiated because Zhu Lidong feels that the economy of these provinces is too poor and they have little spending power. They investigated the mobile phone consumer market in various provinces across the country last year. The top 10 provinces will focus on this, and this is where competition among all manufacturers is fiercest. Lu Feng was quite satisfied with Zhu Lidong's market channel development. At the end of the meeting, Du Guoying proposed an idea. Mr. Lu, do you remember when Hire smashed the refrigerator? Smash the refrigerator, Lu Feng nodded and said, what's wrong? Can we do it again? I know you still have a good reputation in society. Last year, important media reported a lot, including News Network, so you are a household name, right? Du Guoying thought for a while and said, just put it on local TV stations. If you don't invite celebrities, I hope you will shoot the commercial. Tell me what you think. Lu Feng leaned on his seat and looked at him. It could be seen that he went out for advertising and completely ignored Lu Feng. The current advertising positioning is twofold. One is quality-oriented, that is, you, as the boss, reprimand those whose quality is not up to standard. This is a common concern in society now. Fraud is too serious now, such as fake cigarettes, fake wine, fake leather shoes, etc. It is a common thing. Our advertising can start from this aspect, and on the other hand, it is high-end business. You are definitely a successful person now, and your products are tied together with the lives of successful people. Lu Feng couldn't help laughing. Mr. Lu, what's so funny? Du Guoying asked in confusion. It's okay, I suddenly remembered something happy. Lu Feng smiled awkwardly and said, 2 options, the first one is too low-end. We are a big factory and there is no problem of fakes. If we shoot something like this advertising, consumers will think that they have defective products, which will definitely flow out of the market, and there will also be people who use this guise to infringe on our brand. This is indeed something I didn't consider. Du Guoying nodded and said, then let's do high-end business. You must also consider the audience when making this type of advertisement. When you ask the advertising company to design, it must conform to the state of high-end people in the minds of ordinary people. For example, in ancient times, people thought that the emperor used a golden hoe. In your advertisement, the emperor, if they drive a tractor, they can't feel it. It doesn't matter what the real high-end business is like. What's important is what high-end business is like in the minds of ordinary people, because people are often more able to accept their ideas being confirmed or agreed rather than refuted. Do you understand? Du Guoying nodded repeatedly, and Zhu Lidong said from the side, so Mr. Du still needs to learn more. In terms of marketing, Mr. Lu is better at understanding human nature. Look, Mr. Zhu is confirming it now, Lu Feng said with a smile. There was a burst of laughter, and then the meeting ended. In the end, Lu Feng did not agree to the marketing activity of smashing mobile phones. Times have changed, and people's requirements and ideas for products have also changed. When you really do things like smashing mobile phones, your opponents will seize the opportunity to promote them. Your defective rate is high. On the last day of October, the factory started trial production. Lu Feng went to the factory to congratulate the first batch of products off the production line. Liuqin also rushed back from Xiangjiang and talked a lot about product design, signals, and displays. What is the half-year defective rate of display screen cables? Lu Feng asked. This is related to the welding process. The data we obtained shows that the defective rate of waveguide cables, buttons, displays, and motherboards in 3 months is 8%, while the data for Motorola and Nokia are much smaller. It is said to be within 5%. Liuqin thought for a while and said, our 3 batches of experimental products, a total of 1,000 mobile phones, the defective rate of cables within 3 months is about 6%, and this figure will expand to 8% in 6 months. This data is a bit high, Lu Feng said solemnly. We don't have the technology accumulation in this area. The display cables are purchased from China. They are cheap but easy to burn. Once the voltage becomes unstable, the screen will burn as well. We imported them from Europe. The reason why the data looks better than the waveguide ones, related to our electronic control system. I heard Mr. Du mention the warranty to me. My suggestion is a 3-month warranty period, which will cost less. Liuqin helped Lu Feng analyze the damage probability of major accessories from a technical perspective. The top one was the cable. Even the cables of the first-tier international brands were sometimes burned out. Next year, we will set up a project on wiring and strengthen research and development in this area. We must do a good job, but do not be the best, Lu Feng ordered. Liuqin nodded to express his understanding. Nowadays, the price of mobile phones has been severely compressed, and the sales of accessories account for the majority of profits. A lot of design work has been done on a mobile phone from the beginning of its design, including market positioning, suppliers, and service life. After using it for so many years, who will it be sold to later? When the first mobile phone was assembled and officially came off the assembly line, there was a round of applause and firecrackers began to be set off outside the factory. Lu Feng invited a group of media to record this moment. The first giddy mobile phone has officially rolled off the production line. Lu Feng held the silver mobile phone in his hand to show it to the media, then opened the flip cover and showed the operation interface. Now I use it to make the first call. Lu Feng installed the mobile phone SIM card and then dialed Mayor Zhang's number. After the call was answered, Lu Feng said, "Hello, Mayor Zhang, Jiatong Industrial Park. The first mobile phone is officially offline and I am using it to talk to you. Congratulations." Following a round of applause, Lu Feng hung up the phone after saying a few polite words, and said to the crowd, "The sound is particularly clear and bright. We have absolute technical advantages in digital decoding." That night, Lu Feng appeared on the news network again. On TV, Lu Feng introduced the first Giddy mobile phone. The introduction said that this represented that the domestic electronics industry was booming, reaching a new level and opening a new era. Journey. Giddy's mass production has paved the way for the upcoming Information Industry Conference. Ever since Hurricane Capital prepared to produce mobile phones, it has been making headlines in various media every 3 days. Many people in the industry have privately said that Lu Feng is the man who lives in the headlines. Now that it is in mass production, what else can cause trouble and make news? If news comes out again, I'm afraid the product quality is not up to standard, right? The next morning, Lu Feng arrived at the venue at around 9 o'clock and changed his mobile phone from Nokia to Giddy. There were groups of people gathered in the lounge. This time there were not only mobile phone manufacturers, but also various suppliers. Merchant. Although on the surface this is a conference to discuss electronics, information, and communications, everyone knows that this is an exchange meeting. There are even many dealers who will be present. Some people have prepared a team to intercept the dealers in advance. They will stay in the best hotels, eat, drink and have fun. The talk is to abandon other brands and sell their own products. At the meeting the day before yesterday, Lu Feng had already told Zhu Lidong to prepare the team. Today he is responsible for attracting the media on stage, while Mr. Zhu is wooing major dealers below. Latest website. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 1288. Latest website. Less than an hour before the opening, Mayor Zhang came in to greet everyone and briefly said that there are companies from all over the country, and they still hope to attract some companies to build factories here. In Lu Feng's view, such a conference is to gather together everyone who needs prey to hunt them down. Suppliers hunt OEMs, OEMs hunt dealers, and local municipal governments woo all out-of-town companies. Lu Feng saw Mr. Su from Bird from a distance. He was now definitely the leader in domestic mobile phones. Several suppliers were milling around, chatting happily. On Lu Feng's side, several suppliers came to talk to him, but they all required a sufficient quantity of goods to be purchased at one time, as they were afraid that Giddy Mobile would go bankrupt in 2 days. As the staff at the scene began to ask everyone to sit down at the scene, everyone got up and walked towards the scene. Preparing for the opening at 10 o'clock in the morning, Mayor Zhang and the person in charge of the Ministry of Information Industry all gave speeches. As the host came to the stage, the morning forum officially began. First, the Deputy Minister of the Ministry of Information Industry, the President of the Information Industry Association, Telecommunications, the Chairman of China Unicom and other state-owned enterprises took the stage. We talked for almost an hour about the development plan of the domestic information industry and the development status of the foreign information industry, focusing on the coverage of signal towers, information decoding, 3G research and development, new generation switches and other related fields. This exchange also released a signal, that is, the country will accelerate the coverage of signal towers and provide subsidies for related high-tech industries. Some orders for the new batch of signal towers will be reserved for domestic production, with Huawei being highlighted. The follow-up articles such as digital decoding, motherboards, processors, and CPUs focused on Hurricane Capital, and also emphasized that they hope that major companies can learn more from Hurricane Capital. Many people at the scene focused their attention on Lu Feng. Everyone knows that no one can learn from Hurricane Capital. Hurricane Capital's current foundation is all obtained by cheating from outside. Lu Feng is crazy. He dares to take action in municipal and provincial affairs. Moreover, the path Lu Feng has traveled cannot be replicated. The attributes of the era are too strong. Coupled with all kinds of lucky operations, among other things, There are several bosses who dare to go to Suzhou to leverage large-scale projects with 1 or 2 billion in capital. State-owned assets of plant and equipment. Let us bid farewell to you all with warm applause. Next, we will invite outstanding entrepreneurs in the industry to come to the stage for exchanges. We hope that you will inspire unlimited possibilities in the collision. Next, we will invite Mr. Lu Feng, Chairman of Hurricane Capital, and Chairman of Birdco, Limited, Mr. Su, Mr. Wu Ying of Hangzhou PHS Co., Limited. The group of 6 people also included the president of Motorola's popular area, the regional head of Ericsson and the regional head of Nokia. Lu Feng came to the stage and took a seat in the middle. There were 2 people on the left and 3 people on the right. When the host saw everyone sitting down, he first looked at Lu Feng and said, "Then let me ask Mr. Lu first. Giddy, the mobile phone was mass-produced yesterday, how do you feel?" Lu Feng took out his mobile phone from his pocket, showed it to everyone, and said, "The call quality is quite high, and our memory is better than all mobile phones on the market. We can store 35 phone numbers, 25 SMS, and has a super strong signal lock. It looks really good from the styling point of view. I would like to ask on behalf of consumers, how much will the price of this phone be?" the host asked. "The price is still under study, but I can assure you that the quality of our products will be better than foreign brands, and the price will be similar to domestic brands," Lu Feng said confidently. "Does Mr. Su have something to say?" the host asked provocatively. "In the field of semiconductor technology, I believe Mr. Lu has accumulated a lot of technology, but that is not the case in the field of communications. As for waveguide, we have cooperated more with French companies in recent years. This year's sales are the best proof," Mr. Su countered said. "The quality of foreign investment and the price of domestically produced products are contradictory, because Giddy cannot produce them all by itself, and the price and cost of purchasing from outside are the same. The Ruxin R/U0026D Center, which we lead in the field of communications, has been cooperating with Nokia for many years. We also have profound accumulation. This is unmatched by waveguides. Your sales volume this year is entirely due to market reasons. There is not enough at low prices. The market competition is equivalent to a monopoly at this price point," Lu Feng said to Mr. Su. "I believe that once Giddy mobile phones are launched, the original advantages will no longer exist. Mr. Lu has always been like this. He always boasts about things before they are sold. Back then, I remember that GFN was making small home appliances. It claimed that it would overpower the foreign-owned Siemens in refrigerators and defeat the domestic-owned Haier. As a result, as soon as it was launched, it sold more than 1,000 yuan a month. Taiwan," Mr. Su said with a smile. "Refrigerators and mobile phones are completely different things. When we want to do something seriously, I believe we can definitely do it. Color TVs were like this back then, and mobile phones are still like this today. Giddy mobile phones are just the layout of Hurricane Capital. A breakthrough. We are very happy to see the rise of waveguide. Because we are a domestic company, our hardware research and development also hopes to create more waveguides. Only when the market becomes bigger can consumers buy better mobile phones. Giddy and Bird are essentially friends and business partners. People say that when a fellow countryman meets a fellow countryman, he or she will burst into tears. What I want to say is, when business friends meet business friends, they must not shoot each other twice," Lu Feng joked. The crowd burst into laughter. The person in charge of Nokia on the side couldn't help but pick up the microphone and said, "If Mr. Lu said so, Nokia is still the largest technical supporter of domestic mobile phones. This is what we have been doing when entering the domestic market over the years. Without Nokia's technical support, I believe there would be no Giddy now." "I don't agree with this," Lu Feng hurriedly retorted. "We are the largest investor in the Ruxin R/U0026D Center. At the beginning, Nokia's domestic sales were average, and we also provided support in the sales channels. It can be said that you have a strong presence in China today. The market and growth rate are entirely the result of hurricane capital. As for technical research and development, that is done together. We are not apprentices or paid to go to school, but we bring funds to cooperate. Now we see that your Vice President Zhu Lidong still uses Nokia technology to promote. On some occasions the other party pressed forward step by step. That's because of the superstition of foreign brands in China. We are partners. It is normal to mention partners on some occasions. This has nothing to do with publicity. Anyone who says that we are collaborating with other brands is simply nonsense. Talk, this is just here to cause trouble, Lu Feng joked. How long does Mr. Lu think it will take for domestic mobile phones to catch up with international brands, high-end brands like Motorola? The person in charge of Motorola said from the side. Mobile phones are an intensive electronics industry. Our country has advantages in this regard. The so-called high-end brands are just immature industries. Any brand that comes in dares to say that it is high-end. What is a high-end mobile phone? A flip phone is a high-end model. Lu Feng explained to the crowd, why are there all candy bar mobile phones on the market? Because flip-top phones cause greater wear and tear, and the materials and technology are not up to par. If you turn them over hundreds of times, the handset cord will break. In terms of circuits for our mobile phones, they are all designed by ourselves and produced by our own supporting companies. Is Motorola high-end? We have cooperated with the world's first-tier technology manufacturers, but we have never had contact with Motorola, Lu Feng said with a smile. As for how long it will take to surpass Motorola in China, I believe that based on your attitude towards consumers, the future market share will not be much higher. I agree with Mr. Lu, the person in charge of Nokia added. There was a lot of back and forth at the scene, and in the end there was even a heated argument. Everything from market share, technology development, raw material research, and even brand tone were compared. The person in charge of Motorola was irritated and made wild claims that it would never be possible to have a brand like Motorola in China. Lu Feng saw that the person in charge of the Ministry of Information Industry in the audience had a bad look on his face and glanced at him quietly. Such a person also be able to be the person in charge of a large global region. It's getting late, it's already 12 o'clock. Let's each introduce our brand in one sentence, and then look forward to the future of the industry in one sentence, the host concluded. The last words that everyone basically focused on were product quality, product tonality, and product social status. When it was Lu Feng's turn, he picked up the microphone and said, "Giddy phone. That's awesome." As soon as these words came out, the audience burst into laughter. Sure enough, Mr. Lu's meeting was definitely indispensable for having fun. As the show ended, Mr. Su walked beside Lu Feng. He looked at Lu Feng with great interest and said, "I really didn't expect you to be so embarrassed." "Young man, why do you want to be embarrassed when you come out?" Lu Feng smiled and walked out of the venue. There was no lunch at the meeting, and the bosses were not interested in sitting together to eat. As soon as they left the meeting, there was an employee waiting for Lu Feng. "Mr. Lu, Mr. Zhu has invited about 20 dealers to the hotel. I hope you can come and show your support and support us in our work." Lu Feng nodded. He understood that most of the time he was supporting the work. He had to accompany the leader during inspections and important business. Anyway, the main job was to give face. When the car arrived at the hotel, Lu Feng went directly to the banquet hall. The two tables were already full of people. Everyone greeted Lu Feng as he arrived. These dealers were big and small. For them, Lu Feng was definitely an idol. All of a sudden stood up and were polite. Others stared with wide eyes, taking a good look at the boss who was much younger than themselves. "Everyone, sit down. I heard that everyone is so supportive and came here specially. The development of Giddy, the rise of domestic products, and the hope of the nation are all inseparable from your strong support." Lu Feng sat down and gave these comments to Lu Feng. The small businessmen here put on their high hats. Latest website. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 1289. Latest website. These dealers come from all over the country, and their sales channels are also diverse. No matter what, as long as they can sell. When changing cups at the dinner table, everyone also put forward their own conditions. Giddy mobile phones have to control prices in many major cities, and all dealers have to pay deposits. There is no need for full payment for each batch of goods, only 100%. You can take delivery of the goods with a payment of 70%. Because the price of goods purchased by large dealers and small dealers is different, Lu Feng repeatedly emphasized the issue of cross-selling goods at the dinner table. Once discovered, the deposit will be forfeited, and the return process, warranty, etc. were also discussed a lot. Zhu Lidong classified dealers. The prices for dealers at each level are different. The higher the level, the cheaper the factory price, and the more profits they make. As for the dealer's grade, it is linked to the dealer's sales volume in the previous year, and each year's rating is determined by the company. The profits of each brand are different. We may not necessarily be the most profitable, but I can assure you that sales are absolutely no problem. Our advertising budget is very sufficient. Everyone knows Jiafeng's dealers in the past, right? 3 years later, there was a big return. We refunded them all, and every penny was a lot. Lu Feng assured everyone, brothers and brothers, follow me, as long as you have a sip of soup from me, you will definitely have something to eat, everyone. Rest assured. Everyone shouted Mr. Lu is proud, clinked their glasses and drank it all. That afternoon, these dealers were separated to discuss detailed contracts, and a total of 15 contracts were signed. The phone hasn't been sold yet, but the deposit collected from the dealer alone has reached more than 100 million. Of course, it is said to the outside world that this money will never be misappropriated. Lu Feng has already found a place for the money. Next year's industrial park preliminary advance payment for the second phase of construction. The afternoon session of the conference was a supplier conference and exchanges with various research institutes. The bosses showed up and basically went about other things. In the evening, some evening media headlines boldly published Lu Feng's remarks, such as Giddy's outrage. Lu Feng said Giddy was on an equal footing with Nokia. Lu Feng believed that PHS was a misunderstanding of the times, and so on. For a time, Giddy was once again pushed to the forefront, and all kinds of abuse and ridicule swept in. Different from mobile phone fans on the internet for many years, now it is mainly various experts who criticize Lu Feng. In this era, they are the main ones. Those who speak out, ordinary people have no chance to speak at all. Lu Feng drank a lot and was sent home at 5 o'clock in the evening, where he lay on the bed and fell asleep. This is an era where entertainment is extremely scarce. Any slightest disturbance will attract media coverage and become a topic of gossip in the streets. Lu Feng, regardless of his identity or mobile phone, which is expensive and novel to most people. The most important thing is that in this era, people are still very reserved when facing the public, and there are very few people like Lu Feng. Public opinion is fermenting, and Giddy mobile phones continue to be discussed by the public. This product, which has not yet been launched, has been spread by word of mouth in some big cities. There are constant criticisms of Lu Feng. Many people think that his current status is not suitable for him to say those words. The implicitness and humility of the Chinese people are not seen in Lu Feng at all. Regarding these, Lu Feng caught a well-known professor, published an article to retaliate, and allocated 15 million to Zhu Lidong to brag about himself and Giddy mobile phones in major media. He wants to use some high-end things to tie up with Giddy. If some high-end intellectuals are not willing to tie up with Giddy, then let some magazines make up short stories. For example, Fuzhou entrepreneurs visited other domestic factories and were not familiar with the process. He was indignant at the rigorous, messy, and low-quality personnel, but when he went to the Giddy mobile phone factory, he saw another small piece of garbage on the ground, and a ragged worker was cleaning it up. The Fuzhou entrepreneur said that if a worker in his company appeared in such makeup, he would fire the general manager because it is extremely disrespectful. Then the general manager next to him said that this is the chairman of our company. Small essays like this, as well as publicity and praise from some cultural celebrities in the media, made Giddy become the light of China in the hearts of ordinary people, especially the founder, Mr. Lu Feng, who is hard-working, kind, honest, and perseverant. Bravery, and so on. In particular, he once had a problem with a machine tool in the Giddy factory and needed to get in for repairs. This repair was very likely to cause casualties. He resolutely pushed away the workers and got in to make repairs himself. He told the workers that the company belonged to him. Such risky moments should not be left to workers. I don't know how many simple people this incident touched. On November 15, Giddy's commercial shooting officially started. Lu Feng was on the set looking through the lines of the commercial. The producer squatted aside and asked with concern, "Mr. Lu, are you cold? It's cooling down today." "It's okay, let's start filming," Lu Feng stood up and said. The content of the advertisement is 1 minute in total, and mainly consists of several scenes. A large Mercedes-Benz is parked under an office building. A large number of reporters surround Lu Feng and rush to interview him, asking him the secret of his success. Lu Feng turns to the camera and says, "Integrity win the world." Then Lu Feng continued to walk inside. The reporter caught up and asked him the secret of being one step ahead in business. Lu Feng took out his mobile phone and said to the camera that Giddy, conquer the world. The 1 minute advertisement is divided into 4 parts: business part, campus part, family part, social status part, promoting the mobile phone from various angles, and finally a 10-second brief introduction of the mobile phone. The entire advertising shooting period lasted 3 days, and at the same time, the popular science video on the mobile phone was also being recorded. On December 1, Giddy mobile phone was officially launched. On the day of the launch, Giddy mobile phone invited more than 400 media and carried out a bombardment of publicity. Bird, Motorola, Nokia, and Ericsson were under this pressure. Naturally, they will not sit still and wait for death, and they have stepped up their publicity efforts. On the day of the press conference, Lu Feng stood on the stage and first introduced Giddy's 3 products: landline phones, pagers, and walkie-talkies. These products do not have much technical content for Giddy, and the market for these products is in a downward trend. Products are purely there to add to the product front. Next, I will introduce to you Giddy Tianxia. This is our first mobile phone. We named it Tianxia because of its powerful signal locking function. The signal strength is 10% higher than all products on the market. 5. Even if you are in a rural area, you can still make smooth calls. An elegant flip phone. The flip is the soul of a phone. When a call comes, you take out the phone, open the phone cover under the spotlight, and automatically answer the phone. Moreover, when opened, it is more in line with the length of the human face, allowing the receiver to be in your ear. The microphone is right next to your mouth. We investigated the facial proportions of tens of thousands of people in the country, made the length of the mobile phone according to Chinese standards, and added an external signal light. Even in the dark, you can still clearly find your mobile phone. It is elegant and also a symbol of identity. Symbol. Extra large capacity, capable of storing 25 messages and more than 35 phone numbers, so you can get rid of the phone book in your hand and say goodbye to the embarrassment of looking through the phone book in front of others. At the same time, we support 2 kinds of ringtones for incoming calls. When your cell phone rings, in a crowd, you never have to worry that the phone you pulled out is not yours. Show your unique temperament and status, and invisibly overwhelm your opponent. High-end alloy space cutting-edge metal buttons, Let those low-end plastic buttons get out of your world. Everyone knows that long-term contact with plastic is toxic, and we want to give users an absolutely healthy usage environment. More than 10,000 times button detection, the buttons failed after half a year after buying it. This does not exist in Giddy mobile phones. Our battery life is even better than other products. It has a built-in 400 mAh lithium battery. A single battery can guarantee you 10 hours of calls. However, I know some people have more call needs, so I will give you another battery. Thousands of people in the audience stared at Lu Feng with bright eyes. This press conference shocked them as much as the Apple press conference many years later. We have the most cutting-edge technology reserves in display screens and have cooperated with companies such as Sharp and Nokia. The screen will be the key to our success compared with other products. Giddy World is built on a huge display screen, 2.2 inches in size. Screen. There was a round of applause at the scene. Such a large screen is rare in the current market. All models are equipped with 1.5 to 1.8 inches. And the display effect of this screen is better than any other mobile phone on the market. We specially developed the ink screen, the fonts are clearer and the brightness is higher. This was a press conference that was amazing. From the buttons to the battery, everything was better than the competition. When the price of 2,980 yuan was announced, the excitement at the scene was extinguished. At the current price of 3,000 yuan, only foreign brands are higher than this price, and the price of waveguide is only more than 2,000. The press conference was in full swing. At the Swiss airport, Su Yurong got on the plane under the guidance of the stewardess. This time her destination was Xiangjiang and she bought 2 enclosed business seats for herself and her baby. Several flight attendants circled the baby, fearing that the child would feel uncomfortable while the plane was on the plane. Su Yurong sat aside and felt a little unhappy. Her child had to squeeze into the plane with these people. When she entered the house, the first thing is to buy a private jet. She was dissatisfied with Lu Feng's return of the private jet to the Schroeder Group before, and now she is even more dissatisfied. After the plane flew smoothly, the child finally stopped crying. Su Yurong looked at the blue sky and white clouds outside the window, secretly thinking that this time she had no way out. Even if she died, she would die in Lu Feng's graveyard. Latest website.